Hey everyone, Brayden here coming to you with a breaking Disney news update. This day only comes once every couple of years, where we get the D23 Expo Parks panel. The biggest news event of any given year, Disney parks wise. It's usually where we hear all the big announcements. Now, we know going into this one in particular, we probably weren't going to hear that much based on Disney's seeming lack of interest in investing in the parks right now. All the money capital expenditure wise is going over to other things. Disney Plus in particular is where a lot of the money is going. So I really didn't expect us to hear a whole lot here. If you noticed, I didn't even make a predictions video this year because I'm not in the business of getting your hopes up unnecessarily. You know, we all know the deal with Disney right now, so I wasn't going to go out here and say, I think we're getting new lands and new parks and all that stuff. No, of course we're not. We're probably not even getting new rides. And of course, that's what we saw at this expo, needless to say. Despite these low expectations going into it, judging by the reaction online, Disney still somehow managed to surprise some fans to the downside. And I think a lot of this is because of the panel's host, Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro. He does this at every D23 Parks panel he hosts. What he does is he says, we have some huge announcements to get to, tons to get to. I'm gonna run out of time. We have so much stuff to talk about. And then he proceeds to spend the next hour chatting up guests on stage, you know, doing small talk and stuff, hosting musical performances that go on for quite a while, announcing meet and greets, things of that tier. Not that there's anything wrong with those things inherently, but when you think of huge announcements at the parks panel, you're not thinking of meet and greets, right? After announcing very little that is concrete, we didn't get an exact opening date for Tron, we didn't get any look inside Tiana's Bayou adventure, the panel suddenly took a turn right off a cliff and they started talking very nervously about early blue sky ideas that they have to replace Dino Land in the Animal Kingdom with both Moana and Zootopia. And then they started talking about something with Coco and Encanto being behind Big Thunder Mountain, some land going back there at the Magic Kingdom. And it seemed like they teased a fifth park, a Villains Park, or something along those lines. I've got a good assessment of what we saw there for you here, so we'll get to all that. But first, let's start with the big concrete news we got. We actually got some serious stuff here that we can actually count on happening. And the first thing in that regard was Happily Ever is coming back to Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. Sort of. So the panel opened with a performance of the show's famous song, Happily Ever After, and Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro announced that the song would be returning next year to the Magic Kingdom as part of a new show celebrating the 100th year anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. Now, I told you guys a few weeks back when we covered that addition to Enchantment that I thought that Enchantment was going away at the end of the 50th anniversary, which ends in March of next year. And what we'd see is we'd either see Happily Ever After come back or they would just do a whole new show. Now, actually, it's a little of both. What they're actually doing is they're doing a whole new show, but it's going to use the Happily Ever After main song. So basically, it's going to be Happily Ever After with a bunch of new intellectual properties inserted into it instead of the ones that we had previously in the original Happily Ever After show. What was surprising to me is over in EPCOT, they also announced that Harmonious 2 is on its way out. So it's not just Enchantment, but also the other show we got new for the 50th anniversary, Harmonious, which Disney spent tens of millions of dollars on. Those barges and all that stuff. It was a huge project, a huge undertaking for Disney. That too is going away, and there's going to be a new show premiering next year for Disney's 100th anniversary in EPCOT. It was quite funny because the parks chairman was talking about their incredible new shows that they debuted at Walt Disney World, Enchantment and Harmonious, and how guests love them and all of this. And then seconds later, he proceeds to announce that they're being replaced so early into their runs here, which definitely indicates something to the other side. You know, maybe these weren't that well received, it turns out. When the panel started, D'Amaro acknowledged this a little bit. What he said is they don't always get everything right.
Now, I know that change can be hard and we may not get things perfect all the time. But I also know that you want to be part of what we're doing and where we're headed. And that means everything to us. So then, where do we go next?
Very interesting stuff. So switching over to Disneyland for a bit, which as predicted was a bigger focus this panel compared to the previous ones at previous expos. Disney brought out the Mando and Grogu character costume that they've been working on for quite a long time for the long rumored Mando and Grogu meet and greet coming to Galaxy's Edge. And what we found out is that the meet and greet will begin in mid-November at Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge. Also in meet and greet news, we got a look at the giant Hulk exoskeleton mech suit suit that they've been teasing for a long time. We saw the completed version of that, which Disney has teased in the past, this new giant meet and greet idea they have basically. And what Tomorrow said is that Hulk will be doing a meet and greet in Disney California Adventure for a limited time. It sounds like it's not going to be around very long. I think what they're doing is they're testing out this new technology, making use of these giant characters, this whole new idea that they had for these meet and greets. So I think they're testing it out here is what he's trying to say. The other news over at Avengers Campus is it's going to be heading into the multiverse. They've announced that they're going to be doing this third attraction. There's going to be a new attraction heading in there, which is going to feature King Thanos, and it's going to be this multiverse theme. We don't know anything about the attraction besides the fact that Disney is working on an attraction. The biggest shock on the Disneyland Resort side of things was news that Pacific Wharf at DCA will be rethemed to San Francisco, featured in the movie Big Hero 6, and the land will feature Baymax. They said that this is still early blue sky. There's a lot to figure out, and it sounds like we're mostly just talking about retail here. It might not be a whole lot beyond that, so just a heads up there. Then we got into the Tiana news, which led the expo, or if you recall at that press event the other night when the expo first opened. We heard all this stuff about Tiana. There's a new restaurant coming to New Orleans Square. We got that model, and Disney reiterated a lot of that here in the panel, and we also saw that animation of the exterior of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. The only new info we got on that front was a little reference to what will be inside the attraction. They will be utilizing digital tools. That's what they say. Take a look.
What I have always loved is when we have the opportunity to take our tried and true techniques and then combine them with our digital tools for animating and lighting to just create a brand new attraction experience for our guests. For example, we're going to use myth like a painter's canvas to create this amazing sense of aura, which is going to be different from anything that you have seen in an attraction. It's something that I like to refer to as Bayou, true Bayou magic. And Josh, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I know. Well, I love this idea of true Bayou magic.
So it sounds to me like all this Bayou magic, what it amounts to is projectors and fog machines. So just a little look at what we got going on there. We already talked all about this project in our last D23 Expo video. So if you want to hear a lot more about this attraction, what's going on with it, be sure to check that out. Also in Walt Disney World news, the biggest news I thought, and I don't want to play the I was right game too much here, who cares, but I've been telling you guys since 2019 that we are getting the Hatbox Ghost at the Magic Kingdom. That Imagineering had been working on the Hatbox Ghost animatronic to put in our Haunted Mansion for the 50th anniversary. It was all green lit, and then the events of 2020 happened, and all those 50th enhancement projects that Imagineering had planned for the Magic Kingdom were put on hold and never came to fruition. I was alone in the wilderness on this one, saying that this was still happening. Other insiders have said that I was wrong, that it wasn't happening, that that's not true. There is no Hatbox Ghost plan. Actually, it turns out that there definitely is, and today it was confirmed indeed that the Hatbox Ghost is coming to Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion next year. Very, very exciting stuff. It was announced very briefly by Josh. He sort of just threw it out there and brushed right past it. This was definitely one of the more exciting announcements we got at the panel because it's not some blue sky idea that's never going to end up happening. It's an actual thing that is going to happen. It's a physical thing that exists. It's a physical animatronic that they are going to add to an attraction that we already love. So that's one thing that we can actually count on. Very, very exciting there. I will say, in addition to the Hatbox Ghost coming to the Magic Kingdom, recently I also told you guys that I was expecting that we'd hear about other delayed 50th enhancements finally coming to fruition at this event. I was thinking that they might announce the new effects that were supposed to go on Big Thunder Mountain, as well as the return of the Country Bear Vacation Hoedown. Another one of these things that I've been the only one talking about for years and years and years. These two rumored projects, they were not announced at this panel. Moving over to EPCOT, during the panel, we finally got acknowledgement from Disney on EPCOT turning 40 years old, the 40th anniversary of EPCOT in just a couple weeks here. Beyond acknowledging this fact, the fact that EPCOT's 40th exists, we didn't hear much in terms of festivities. It sounds like it's going to be merchandise. Whatever else it'll be, I guess Disney will just announce on the Disney Parks blog. The big EPCOT news was that Figment will be returning to EPCOT as a meet and greet character, which is very exciting news and should have happened a long time ago. People love Figment. Very, very exciting stuff. The crowd was very excited to hear that. It was just a meet and greet announcement, but it's Figment, so it's special. You know know it's going to be a big deal when he finally makes his return as a meet and greet character. We also heard that Moana Journey of Water will be opening next year in 2023. I think they already announced that back when Guardians was opening. They touched on that, but just something to note there. Then we have over in the Magic Kingdom, Tron. Now, throughout this panel, despite the promise from Josh of big things coming, it was going really slow. He was talking slowly. He was chatting it up with the guests on stage about pretty much nothing. And I was thinking the big announcement must be the Tron opening date, right? Tron's going to be opening in November, December, and it's just a date, right? It's not really a whole lot to announce. It is a big deal, but it's just a date that you're announcing. So maybe that's why they're dragging it out here. It's such a quick announcement. Maybe they're just padding out the panel with all this other stuff, musical performances, and then finally they're going to give us the Tron date, and that'll be the big news, the big headline. Nothing could be further from the truth. That did not happen. So what happened is Demaro shared a POV video riding the Tron coaster. And you might be saying, okay, so the ride is far enough along. We got people riding it. We got the parks chairman riding it here. We'll be riding it soon, right? We've got to be close. We're not close. We are not close at all. It turns out that not only did we not get an opening date, but we did get a time frame. The time frame he gave us was spring 2023 for the Tron coaster. So I was completely, totally, epically wrong on this one. All year, I've been saying how optimistic I am about Tron opening in 2022. That is not happening. Disney has said the current time frame, the current outlook is spring 2023. No concrete date. Disney probably doesn't even know. Oh man, I dare to be optimistic, lesson learned, but I apologize for that. So looking at this video, it's very apparent the inside has not been completed, the stuff that they got going on in there. So while we could see all this stuff on the outside where it seems like we could be a month away from this thing being ready for guests, what the execs are seeing inside, clearly it is not even close yet. They've got supply side holdups. They've also wasted a lot of time during the lockdown, not doing anything with this project while their competitors took advantage of cheaper construction on both the labor end and the financing end to build new attractions in record time that have been hugely popular. Throughout this panel, Josh keeps overtly naming the lockdowns as the reason for why the parks are the way that they are right now. He keeps making allusions to this. He keeps saying the lockdown's this, the lockdown's that. It was a really dark couple of years. Here's the thing, Disney is a multinational conglomerate. They're this enormous corporation that doesn't care about you, by the way. Some people, they treat this like a religion. It's a giant machine, all right, with hundreds of subsidiaries and assets. Disney can, on a lark, borrow tens of billions of dollars from the banks. They made an active decision in 2020 to shift CapEx from the parks to Disney Plus, and that has not relented to any significant degree since. And you could say that makes sense, right? During the lockdowns, what's going to make more money? Probably your stuff that's digital than stuff that's physical. That makes sense. It actually doesn't make sense because we all knew eventually that was going to end and the physical would become very important again, and Disney's parks make them a ton of money. It is a huge cash flow engine for the company. It is much more reliable in terms of revenue compared to their studios projects. My theory as to what caused all this, what precipitated this current paradigm we're in that Demaro keeps making reference to, is that there was a cash flow concern going into the events of 2020. Thanks to the moves that were made by Chapek's predecessor, Robert Iger, acquiring Fox going into all this, Disney had this massive debt obligation that they assumed, which Chapek was left to deal with. And this was all heading into a time where their cash flow engine, the parks, were closed. So this was a big, big deal for Disney. This was a burden their competitors in the theme park business did not have. Where Universal was able to finance a whole new theme park in Florida during this period where we had record low interest rates, it would have been the perfect time for Disney to double down on theme park projects. And they would have made tons and tons of return in the long term. But long term isn't a word you hear much these days at Disney. And my point is, even if Disney wanted to start doing huge stuff, like a fifth park or whatever, it would now cost them 3 times as much or around there to borrow the money, if you look at the interest rates, compared to if they had done the investment while the parks were closed, which probably would have been the smarter decision. Point being, in a way, Demaro is right. The lockdowns compounded Disney's problems financially, but it certainly didn't create them. They were set up for disaster here, and it was just this one thing that just sort of knocked the dominoes over. And here we are with Tron, which has taken 5 years to build. over 5 years to build at Walt Disney World, a clone of an attraction, not even an original attraction, a clone of an attraction at another park, an international park. By the time it opens, it will have taken Disney over 5 years to build this one attraction, which is just wild. And it's not even that extensively themed. Let's be real. You know, a lot of it, you're in the dark or whatever, right? So it's like, what on earth? Next, the parks panel shifted to the Disney Cruise Line. Talking about Disney Cruise Line stuff, we got a look at this new Grand Hall. This is the Grand Hall for the next Disney cruise ship. You can see the style we're going with here. We got Aladdin stuff going on. We got the name of the ship. The name of the ship is the Disney Treasure. Then we got a rather bizarre drone video of Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro standing on an undeveloped island in the Bahamas. That island is going to be developed into a new vacation getaway, which is called Lighthouse Point, a stop during some of the upcoming cruises. No date on that just yet. Josh made note that it's very early in development, so he's telling us don't expect this anytime soon. Then we got some brief news on the international parks. The Zootopia area is coming along in Shanghai. We also got a look at this awesome animatronic, which looks really cool. We also got some look at some renderings of the area, some more renderings of how it will look, the facades and things of this nature. Over at Hong Kong Disneyland, they're getting this awesome new Walt statue where he's sitting on a park bench inspired by the famous Disneyland origin story where Walt got the idea of Disneyland sitting on a bench in Griffith Park. Tokyo Disney, they've got a big Tomorrowland update underway. The Oriental Land Company does some incredible stuff, that team over there. They put a lot of money into their parks. They take it very, very seriously. They manage it to a level that I think we all wish the other resorts around the world were managed. It's pretty impressive to see. And it seemed like that they were prepping to hop back over to Disneyland to talk about Disneyland's Tomorrowland, which is in desperate need of help. Going into this, the biggest rumor, the one that everyone was hoping for, was the People Mover returning to Disneyland, and then it didn't happen. We did not get anything Tomorrowland-wise at Disneyland. We did not get any announcement of an aesthetic overhaul at the very least. We did not get an announcement of anything new there. Definitely not the People Mover, so very disappointing there for Disneyland fans. Instead, this is when the panel went right off a cliff into, we don't even know what this was. Here's how it began.
Now look, what I'm about to share with you is probably going to make a bunch of Disney folks out there nervous. But I think it's going to make you all really excited. Because what we're going to talk about next is way early in the creative process. It's what our Imagineers call blue sky. I want to be clear with everybody in here, though. We are not up here daydreaming. It's important to me that you know these things we're going to talk about, they are very real. They are very serious discussions that I'm having with our teams about the future of our parks and experiences.
So these guests come on stage to talk about these crazy blue sky ideas that are supposed to make us all nervous, whatever that means. And the weird thing was, they seemed to be nervous too as they were talking about it to us. Maybe that was just like a put on or something, but it was like, what is going on? What are we looking at right now? So first they talk about Dino Land and Zootopia. Zootopia does not belong in the animal kingdom, according to its visionary, Joe Rohde, who has made the point on Twitter in the past that Zootopia is about humans. It is metaphorical. It is not about real life animals or man's relationship to nature, so it really doesn't fit in the animal kingdom too well. And then they started talking about Moana. So it was like, what on earth is going on here? Is Moana coming to Dino Land? Is Zootopia coming to Dino Land? And then we got this art where you can see it's a combination of Moana and Zootopia in Dino Land. And you can actually see the current Dino Land spinner ride there, all rethemed in this new land, as part of this new land in the animal kingdom. Now they say this is a blue sky idea, so it might not happen. It's definitely not gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen in its current form, but there's the idea. I really think that they're just sort of like focus grouping us, like, hey, what do you think about this idea? So then they start talking about the Magic Kingdom, and of all things, Big Thunder Mountain. This is just bizarre.
All right, so Go with me, everyone go with me. So let's take this journey. Imagine, what if we could pass over those spires of Big Thunder Mountain, and maybe in front of us, there's a valley in front of us with the little town of Santa Cecilia, Mexico. And they're celebrating Dia de los Muertos. And what if we can climb on board the back of Al Brie and fly into the land of the dead?
So they're proposing putting Coco in Frontierland. Disney's already shoehorning intellectual property into Walt's dear Frontierland and New Orleans Square. But at least with Princess and the Frog with Tiana, you can make some sort of argument there. You know, maybe aesthetically, the Bayou is a little bit of a different vibe than, you know, what we're used to with Frontierland. But you can at least make some sort of argument there. I really don't think there should be a whole lot of intellectual property in New Orleans Square. And also we're seeing with Pacific Wharf in DCA, they're making that an intellectual property. And also this weekend, we saw announced that they're going to put this giant 16-foot tall Moana figure, this Tafiti figure inside the middle of EPCOT. Really seeing all of the unique non-movie intellectual property areas of the Disney parks become infested with all this intellectual property. But as I said, at least with Tiana, you know, in Frontierland, it sort of makes sense there, right? But Coco in Frontierland? Surely not. What about Coco at the Mexico Pavilion in EPCOT, which Disney teased in the EPCOT model years ago? That would actually fit thematically there. That would be the perfect spot for it. What happened to that? Then they bring up Encanto, and they don't say where that would go, but then we find out moments later it would go next to Coco behind Big Thunder Mountain in the Magic Kingdom in Frontierland. This is real art. This is not an impromptu Imagineering, you know, April Fool's Day. This is like a real thing that they're proposing.
This looks fantastic. Beyond Big Thunder Mountain is going to be so cool.
Then Parks Chairman Josh D'Amaro seemingly acknowledges the long-standing fan idea, the fan concept of a villains-based fifth park at Walt Disney World.
All right, well, listen, I know this one is not planned anytime soon, but it's something that we know all of you talk about, and it's a fun idea that's always in the back of our minds, and it's an area overrun by villains.
So that was that. The guests head off the stage, and that's the panel. That's it. That's what we got. And it's like, what on earth? So they didn't even announce anything there with that blue sky. It was like, what if we did this? What if we did that? And some people were thinking maybe this is like a metaverse thing. Maybe this is like a fifth park thing. Well, like, are we supposed to be reading into this? What's the point of all this? Very, very interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think. At the very end of the panel, we quickly got news that the Magic Happens Parade is finally returning to Disneyland in the spring. A new spectacular is coming to Disneyland for the 100th anniversary called Wondrous Journeys, as well as a new show, World of Color 1. Both are set to kick off late January at Disneyland. And I will say I've heard from our sources that Disneyland is really the epicenter of this 100-year celebration of the Walt Disney Company. It's mostly going to be focused on Disneyland, not Walt Disney World, just something to note there. But it seems like accidentally, because of the not so great guest feedback to the 50th shows, the new permanent nighttime spectaculars that we got for the 50th anniversary, Disney's now sort of playing it off like those were just supposed to be around for the 50th, and they're replacing them due to the bad feedback. So we're going to be getting a lot of new nighttime entertainment at Walt Disney World as well as part of the 100th anniversary in the end. It just sort of all fell together like that. So that'll be quite cool. We'll see how those turn out. So that's the panel. That was it. Very, very bizarre. With the exception of the stuff at the end, I would say that this was an absolute nothing burger of a parks panel. I can't say that it was a letdown because I didn't expect us to get anything with the exception of Hatbox, Happily Ever After returning, and the World of Color show that I heard about leading into this event today. You know, besides those things, those were things I was expecting and we got them. Besides that, I really wasn't expecting much of anything. I was hoping we'd hear something about the Country Bears Vacation Hoedown thing, but you know, that's just so I could be vindicated. That did not happen, but we got the Hatbox, so I was pretty happy about that since I've been talking about that for years and years. I was pleasantly surprised to hear Harmonious is being replaced. We'll see if they keep those barges in the middle of the World Showcase Lagoon, which are a big part of why that show is poorly received in my opinion. Guests do not like those. It totally messes with the vibe in the World Showcase Lagoon. They have to do something about those barges. I'm worried that they're just going to keep them and hope that if they just change the content that's on the barges, then all of a sudden guests will start liking this stuff. Those barges are a big part of what's wrong with Harmonious, I think. There were some other aspects of the parks panel that I sort of glossed over because they weren't very important, but people were quite excited about. Some of our LA viewers were letting me know that they're very excited about the chains that are coming to Downtown Disney out there that they announced. Some people were excited about that. Also, of course, the Figment meet and greet, that should be very cool as well. So it wasn't a total nothing burger, but it was pretty close. It wasn't a Tron opening date. It wasn't announcing big new rides like we've seen in past panels, but it wasn't nothing. We did get a few little things here and there. The last part with the blue sky brainstorming about a combo Zootopia and Moana Land for Dino Land and a combo Encanto and Coco Land behind Big Thunder Mountain in the Magic Kingdom. Fans are saying right now, was Disney trolling us? What on earth was that? What I really think it was is Disney doesn't have anything to announce. As I've covered at length in this video, on the financial end, there's not really a whole lot leaning towards us getting big investments at the parks right now. So what do you do instead? Well, you resort to the blue sky, right? You say, oh, well, we're coming up with crazy ideas, and you make allusions to things that the fans want, like a villain's park, but that's all it is, right? And if you look at these past panels, they announced concrete plans like Mary Poppins at the UK Pavilion, stuff like that, which ended up not happening, right? So they've given us concrete plans, concrete announcements of stuff, and that hasn't even happened. So what do you think is going to happen with this blue sky early in development stuff that Josh D'Amaro claims he's going to get in trouble for, which is very disingenuous. Like, dude, you're in charge of all the parks. Who are you going to get in trouble with? You think Chapek cares? Of course not. So point being, I wouldn't count on anything there. I think they threw that stuff in just as a way to sort of throw the fans off, give the fans something to talk about, and sort of make it like we heard something of note at this event, besides just meet and greets and new nighttime shows and, you know, more basic stuff like that. So I think that's why they threw that stuff in, but I don't think there's really that much to read into it. I really think what it is they didn't have a whole lot to announce, so they sort of just gave us some blue sky ideas to talk about, and they're definitely collecting our feedback, our reactions to these ideas. They're definitely logging all of this, and that might influence your decision of how they move forward with these ideas. So let me know what you guys think of everything we heard here today. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe with those notifications on, and I'll keep you up to date on everything happening. From the Mickey Mouse Magic Studio, this is Brayden. Thank you so much for watching. Have a magical day.